in the dilemmas that each of us face in life. You know, in my own life, I know the personal challenges that I've been through. There are huge questions that I don't know the answer to. I still don't understand, you know, why my marriage broke down. My first marriage broke down. And, you know, I wonder about it. I worry about my former wife. I worry about my children, what they've gone through. And, you know, I'd love to have an explanation. I'm not the sort of person that throws that sort of thing in the too hard basket and say, well, you know, it's just too complicated to know the answers to that. I hope one day that there may be a vision or an understanding that I have that suddenly puts all that stuff into equilibrium, so that there's not that nastiness, that sense of you know, an unfinished symphony still there, that my life and the life of all those people that I've intersected with. One of the things that upsets me is that when my marriage broke down, it wasn't just the relationship between myself and my wife that was shattered. There were a whole orchestra full of relationships that were shattered. Friends, other people in the family, and, you know, you can't talk with those people again. And I find it profoundly sad, and I think everybody in life has these disequilibriums, these problems that occur in your travel through life, and we all have them to a greater or lesser extent. At the moment we're hearing about people who've been abused, and, you know, we can empathise with them, particularly these days when we're understanding the depth of the damage that is done. And but at another level, all of us have these disequilibriums that we carry, like, you know, a saddle pack on our back throughout our life, which are never fully answered. And so I see life as or the religious and spiritual quest as really a search for not only the meaning of how the universe works, and you know, if there's a God, and, you know, how he pulls the puppet strings or whatever that he does, but also at this more intimate personal level of the disequilibriums in our lives. So in a sense we're all engaged in this quest for not just truth, but for personal equilibrium, for peace, so that we're at rest, we're at peace with the world, we're at peace with our neighbours, we're at peace with all the people around us. Now, how you get that is, I think you've got to think about it. You know, you've got to sit down at some stage and meditate on these things, think your way through them, and that leads to the sort of actions that you take in your life. Now, the Eureka moment that I had this morning is that perhaps a lot of people don't see it like that, particularly thinking about this Maciel Delgado that has been in the news in the last few days. I just can't understand a man like that, you know, dedicating his whole life to this set of values that, you know, you're supposed to take on as a priest, you know, the theology, the beliefs and all that sort of thing, and yet he lives this debauched life, this corrupt life, you know, behind it all, you know, sort of privately, and now all the sordid truth is coming out. But, you know, it occurred to me two things. One, firstly, from the perspective of the average person, you know, who's sucked in by a Delgado. Firstly, you know, do they have this attitude, well, it's all too complicated, or life's this big mystery anyway, and so you can accept the truths, so-called quote-unquote truths, that some witch doctor comes along and presents to you, you know, and he's the expert because, you know, he's got the uniform on, the collar or whatever it is, and you believe him because, you know, it's well, you know, it's as good as anybody else. It's good as the local witch doctor or the local Anglican bishop or whoever down the street, or the Buddhist monk. And all these theologies, or these deeper truths that religion is supposed to be the custodian of, you know, that's half a dozen of this and half a dozen of the other, and they're all worth as much to one another as anybody else, so you just accept one. And, you know, if Delgado happens to be the guy who's selling his poison, well, you know, that's it, and you made the wrong choice and that sort of thing. But the other perspective that came to me this morning is looking at it through the perspective of a Maciel, or a John George, this guy on the internet we're always laughing at, or a George Pell, or a Benedict for that matter. You know, how do they view this quest? How do they see this set of things that they're supposedly the custodians for, that they're supposed to be selling to the people? You know, do they see it as a quest for truth, or do they see it as, you know, this set of values that they picked up when they were young men or something, and, you know, that's what sold them into the seminary, and they see themselves as public relations officers, you know, selling that as some, you know, salesman might be selling Coca-Cola or Omo washing powder or something. What's the thing going through their minds? This Delgado stuff, what worries me about that is I don't think the guy had any beliefs in the end. He was an absolute and total fraud. And he conned an awful lot of people, not only out of money, but more importantly, their base values in these things that give us peace, give us meaning, give us understanding. So that's my Eureka moment this morning. I don't know if I've explained it that well, but you know, I'll put this up on YouTube and we'll see what happens. Thanks for listening.